If you don't like it, you can leave." Those words came out of my son's mouth as if they were nothing, like someone commenting on the weather, as if he hadn't just driven a knife into my chest. And the worst part wasn't the words. The worst part was that my daughter-in-law, Daniela, smiled while she put my pension checks in her purse. My pension, my money, my house. My name is Linda. I'm 51 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is the story of how my own son kicked me out of my own home, without knowing that the house was never his. It all started 6 months earlier, on a Sunday in October. Michael arrived with 2 large suitcases and a woman who wears high heels in the house. Daniela, 28 years old, red nails, perfect smile. "Mom, it's temporary," my son told me as he left the suitcases in the living room. "Just a couple of months while we save up for our own place." I opened the door. I opened my refrigerator. I opened my entire life. "This is your house, son." It always has been. Michael hugged me. Daniela gave me 2 kisses on the cheek and said I was a wonderful mother-in-law. I should have seen the signs from that very first day. The first few weeks were strange. Daniela rearranged my furniture to make it look more modern. She put my wedding photograph in a box because the frame was too old. She threw away my flower curtains because nobody uses those anymore, Linda. I kept quiet. You don't want to cause problems in your own home. Michael worked later, so he said. I was left alone with her in the afternoons. Daniela would watch TV in the living room with her feet on my coffee table, eating from my plates without washing them afterward. "Linda, can you get me a glass of water?" she'd ask without taking her eyes off the screen. And I would go, because she was my daughter-in-law, because she was my son's wife. But something inside me started to tighten like a knot. One day I found my box of memories open. The letters my mother wrote to me before she died were scattered on my bed. "Oh, Linda, sorry," Daniela said when I confronted her. "I was looking for a place to store my shoes, and I thought that box was empty." Empty. 30 years of memories. Empty. The months passed, and the house stopped smelling like cinnamon and fresh coffee. Now it smelled like expensive perfume and something darker, like a silent invasion. I kept cooking, cleaning, paying the electricity, the water, the gas. Michael stopped asking me how I was. Daniela stopped pretending to be polite. And then that Tuesday in April came, the one I will never forget. I had gone to the bank in the morning. I needed to withdraw money for my blood pressure medication. But when I tried to use my card, the ATM said, "Insufficient funds." There must be a mistake, I told the machine. There was no mistake. I went back home with my stomach twisted in a knot. I opened the door and there was Daniela sitting at the dining room table, with a stack of cash on the table and my debit card in her hand. My entire pension, withdrawn, without asking me. "Daniela," I said, and my voice came out calmer than I felt. "What did you do?" She didn't even flinch. "I took out this month's money, Linda. We need to talk." Michael appeared from the kitchen with a beer in his hand. My son, the boy I held in my arms, the one who cried on my lap when his father abandoned us, the one who swore he would always take care of me. "Mom, sit down," he ordered me. I sat. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. "Look, Mom," Michael began, and his voice sounded different, hard, cold. "Daniela and I have been talking. We've been here for 6 months and you haven't wanted to discuss the money." "What money, Michael? This is your house. It always was." Daniela let out a dry laugh. "Linda, let's be honest. This house has 3 bedrooms, a living room, a big kitchen. We live here. We take up space. We use electricity, water, gas. Someone has to pay for that." I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to stop her, to remember. But Michael just took a drink of his beer and nodded. "It's only fair, Mom. You have to contribute if you're going to live here with us." Live here with them. In the house I bought with my own 2 hands. In the house where I raised that ungrateful child. "So we decided," Daniela continued putting the cash into her fake Louis Vuitton bag, "that your pension will cover the household expenses. Consider it rent for living here. It's the only fair thing." The silence that followed was so heavy you could touch it. "And if I don't agree?" I asked. Rodrigo slammed his beer on the table. He looked me straight in the eye and said those words that still burn inside me. "If you don't like it, you can leave." He said, "Nobody is forcing you to stay." Daniela smiled, a smile of triumph, of victory. I just sat there looking at this man I no longer recognized as my son, and then for the first time in 6 months, I smiled too. I stood up slowly, very slowly. I walked to my room without saying a single word. I heard them laughing in the living room. "You finally put your foot down," Daniela said. "It was necessary," Michael replied. "It's about time she understood how things are." I opened the drawer of my dresser. I took out a small, rusty key that hung from a thin chain. That key had been hidden there for 25 years, ever since the day I signed the papers, ever since the day I made the hardest decision of my life, the decision I never thought I'd have to use. I put the key in my pocket, took a deep breath, and went back to the living room. They were still laughing, celebrating, and I was still smiling, because there are things that children don't know. Things that mothers keep silent for years, hoping they never have to reveal them. But that day that cursed Tuesday in April, I understood that silence can also make you an accomplice. And I was done being an accomplice to my own humiliation. The key felt heavy in my pocket, like a promise of justice. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There are moments in life when you need to remember how you got there. That night, after Michael and Daniela locked themselves in their room, my guest room, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of chamomile tea in my hands. The key was still in my pocket, burning like a hot coal. But before I tell you what I did, I need you to understand who I was. Who Linda was before she became the burdensome mother-in-law. Before she became the mother who was in the way. Because there was a time when this house smelled different. I was 23 when I met Mark. He worked at his father's hardware store, and I sold pastries at the local market. It was 1997, and the world seemed simpler then. Mark had big hands and an easy laugh. He won me over with sweet words and promises of a home of our own. "You'll see Linda," he'd tell me as we walked through the park on Sundays. "We're going to have a house with a yard, a place where our kids can run around barefoot." We got married in February of '98. Michael was born a year later. At first, we lived in a tiny apartment near the bus station. 2 rooms, a shared bathroom wall so thin we could hear the neighbors arguing. But it was ours. We were happy. Mark worked 12 hours a day. I took care of Michael and made tortillas in the afternoons to sell in the neighborhood, $1 a pack. That's how we saved penny by penny for a down payment on a house. Michael was a beautiful, chubby baby with rosy cheeks who laughed at everything. He liked to sit in the kitchen while I kneaded the dough, and he'd ask me to make him tiny tortillas, just like the real ones, Mommy. "When I grow up," my son would tell me with those huge eyes, "I'm going to buy you a really pretty house with a garden so you can plant roses." I would kiss his forehead and tell him we were already rich because we had him. But life has cruel ways of teaching you that happiness doesn't stay still. Michael was 5 when Mark started coming home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine with increasingly absurd excuses. I had to help a customer. The car broke down. I was just talking with the guys. I kept quiet. You keep quiet about a lot of things when you have a small child and an income that barely stretches. Until one Saturday morning, while Michael was playing with his toy cars in the living room, Mark packed a bag and told me, "I met someone else, Linda. I'm sorry." Just like that. No drama. Like canceling a dentist appointment. "And Michael?" I asked. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just asked about my son. "I'll send money," Mark lied, "but I need to start my life over." He left that same day. Michael asked for his dad for weeks. I told him he was working far away, that he would be back soon. He never came back. The money he promised never arrived. The calls became less frequent until they disappeared. Mark started his life over with a younger woman in another state. They had 2 daughters. Michael ceased to exist for him. and I was left alone with a 5-year-old boy and the income of a woman selling tortillas. But here's the part my son never knew. 2 years after Mark left, Mr. Peterson, the owner of the department store where I had started working, called me into his office. "Linda," he said, "I've been watching you. You're hard-working, honest, responsible. I have a proposal." Mr. Peterson had no children. His wife had died young. He lived alone in a large house in a quiet neighborhood. A house that felt too big, too silent for him. "I need someone trustworthy," he explained. "Someone to look after the house when I'm not here, to keep it alive." He offered me a deal. If I worked for him for 25 years in the store and taking care of the house when he traveled at the end, the house would be mine. "But there's one condition," he said. "No one can know. Not your family, not your son. This stays between you, me, and the papers we're going to sign with the notary." I was 28 years old. I had a 7-year-old son. No visible future. I signed those papers on a Tuesday in November 2001. For 25 years, I took care of that house as if it were mine, because I knew that one day it would be. I watered the plants in the yard. I polished the hardwood floors. I kept the windows clean so the sun could come in. Michael grew up within those walls, never knowing the truth. He thought Mr. Peterson let us live in the house out of pity, out of charity. I never told him otherwise. Why didn't I tell him? Because I was afraid. Afraid something would go wrong. Afraid Mr. Peterson would change his mind. Afraid of giving my son hope that might be broken like all the promises his father made him. Mr. Peterson passed away 3 years ago. The day of his funeral, the notary gave me the deed. The house was mine, legally, completely, irrevocably mine. I cried that day. I cried for the good man who gave me what my husband never could. I cried for the 25 years of silent work. I cried with relief. But I still didn't tell Michael. He thought I had simply inherited the house from Mr. Peterson for being his faithful employee. I let him believe it. Why complicate things? My son moved out on his own at 23. He got a job at a logistics company. I stayed in my house, tending my roses, drinking my coffee with cinnamon in the mornings, living the peace I had earned. Until that Sunday in October when Michael knocked on my door with suitcases and a woman in red high heels. That night in the kitchen, with the tea getting cold in my hands, I remembered all of that. I remembered the 23-year-old girl who sold pastries. I remembered the single mother kneading dough to feed her son. I remembered the 25 years of silent work. I remembered every dollar saved, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, wondering if Michael would have enough for school. And I remembered the promise I made to myself the day I received that deed. No one will ever take away what it took me a lifetime to earn. No one, not even my own son. I got up from the table, washed the cup, and put it away. I turned off the kitchen lights. Tomorrow I would do what I had to do. Tomorrow I would start to get my dignity back. As I tell this, I think about where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next morning I woke up before dawn. There are certain pains that don't let you sleep, that keep you awake staring at the ceiling, wondering at what point everything went so wrong. I got up, put on my blue robe, the one Michael gave me years ago when he still called me Mommy, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. The house was silent. A different kind of silence than before. Before it was a peaceful silence. Now it was the silence of a cold war. I put the water on to boil and took out the coffee and cinnamon I always liked to prepare on Wednesdays. Cinnamon brown sugar, the aroma that reminded me of my mother, of Sundays in her kitchen, of when the world was simpler. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Michael appeared yawning, still in his pajamas. His hair was messy, and he had that just woke-up face that reminded me of when he was 10 and would come down to breakfast with his eyes puffy from sleep. "Morning, Mom," he mumbled as he sat at the table. For a second, just 1 second, I thought it had all been a nightmare, that yesterday's words hadn't existed, that my son was still my son. "Good morning, son," I said. "Want some coffee?" "Yeah, please." I poured him a cup. He held it with both hands, just like he always had since he was a kid. He took a long sip and sighed. "That's good," he said. "Thanks." We sat in silence. I waited. I waited for him to say something, to apologize, to explain that he was stressed yesterday, that Daniela had pressured him, that he didn't mean to hurt me. But Michael just drank his coffee, staring out the window. "Son," I began carefully, "about yesterday." He held up his hand like stopping traffic. "Mom, we already talked about it. There's nothing more to discuss." "But Michael, that's my pension. It's all I have." He set the cup down on the table harder than necessary. "And this is the house where we all live, Mom. What do you expect us to live here for free, for Daniela and me to pay for everything while you save your money?" Those words hit me like ice water. "I pay the electricity," I said slowly. "I pay the water. I pay the gas. I buy the food." That was before, Mom, when you lived alone. Now there are more of us. The expenses went up. "And why didn't you tell me? Why did you steal my card?" Michael shot up from his chair. It scraped loudly against the floor. "Nobody stole anything from you. Daniela took the money because you wouldn't cooperate. Because every time we tried to talk about it, you changed the subject." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Cooperate. In my own house. "Michael, this house is mine," I said, and my voice trembled. "I got it. I've maintained it all these years. You were living in your own apartment, and now you come here and tell me I have to pay to be in my own home." He looked at me with an expression I had never seen. Cold, distant, like I was an annoying stranger. "Mom, Mr. Peterson let you use the house. It was charity. It's not like you bought it." That word cut through me like a nail. Charity. My son thought that everything I had was from pity, from the compassion of a lonely old man, not from work, not from effort, not from 25 years of lifting boxes, cleaning floors, taking care of a house that wasn't mine until it was. Charity. "Michael." I tried again, but he was already walking to the door. "I have to get ready for work. And you should think about getting a job too. You're not so old that you have to stay home all day." He left. I stood there in the kitchen with the coffee pot still hot and my heart in pieces When exactly had my son turned into this? I tried to remember. I searched my memory for a moment, a sign that would tell me when he started to change, and then I saw it. Daniela. Ever since she arrived, Michael started to see me differently. Before, he would call me 3 times a week just to say hi. He would come for dinner on Sundays and help me in the garden. He'd ask about my medicine, my blood pressure, if I needed anything. But after Daniela, the calls spaced out. The visits became obligations. The conversations became uncomfortable. I remembered one afternoon 2 months after they moved in, I heard voices from the bedroom. I was walking down the hall with clean laundry when I heard her. "Michael, your mom still treats you like you're a kid. You're 32 years old. It's time you set some boundaries." "That's just how she is, Danny. She's always been overprotective." "Not overprotective, controlling. Don't you see it? She makes you feel guilty for everything. 'Oh, son, don't worry about me. Oh, son, I'll take care of it.' She's manipulating you." I kept walking that day. I didn't want to hear any more. I thought it was just couples stuff, normal friction. But it wasn't friction. It was poison. Drop by drop, word by word. Daniela had been poisoning him against me for months. I drank my cold coffee in one gulp. It didn't taste like cinnamon anymore. It tasted like ash. I went to my room and opened the drawer where I kept the key. I took it out. I held it in my hand like holding a weapon, because that's what it was, a weapon. The last defense of a mother who was losing her son. But it wasn't time yet. I still had a small hope that Michael would snap out of it, that he would see what was happening, that he would remember who I was, who I had always been for him. I put the key away again. I would wait a little longer, just a little longer. That afternoon, when I got back from the market with bags of groceries, paid for with the little cash I had left after Daniela emptied my account, I found the living room rearranged. My new curtains, the ones I had just hung last week, were thrown on the sofa. Daniela was measuring the window with a tape measure. "Oh, Linda." "Good you're here," she said without turning to look at me. "I'm going to buy some modern curtains. These ones you have look like they belong to a grandma." Like a grandma. I was 51. "Daniela, I just bought those curtains last week. They cost me $50. She shrugged. "Well, I'll buy better ones. Don't worry, you'll love them." She didn't ask me. She didn't consult me. She was just going to do it. In my house. With my money. Or with the money she now considered theirs. "Where's Michael?" I asked. "He went out with some friends. He'll be back late." So I was alone with her, in my own house, watching her dismantle everything I had built. That night, while I was eating some leftover beans and tortillas alone in the kitchen, I heard Daniela laughing from the living room. She was on the phone with someone. "Yeah, girl, almost. We have her right where we want her. She's paying for everything without a fight." "No, she's not going to leave. Where would she go? She has nothing. Just this house that was given to her out of pity. Give it a couple more months and we'll be able to—" I got up without making a sound and went to my room. I didn't sleep that night because I understood something terrible. This wasn't just disrespect. This was a plan. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? The days that followed were the longest of my life. I kept doing everything as usual. I woke up early, I made breakfast, I cleaned the house, I did the laundry, as if nothing had changed, as if my hands weren't shaking every time I saw Daniela sitting at the dining table scrolling through her phone, her red nails gleaming in the light. As if I hadn't heard that conversation. Give it a couple more months and we'll be able to— Able to what? That question haunted me day and night. I tried to convince myself that I had misunderstood, that maybe I was wrong, that maybe Daniela was talking about something else, about her own plans, her own life. But deep down I knew the truth. A mother always knows. On Friday morning, Michael left for work early without eating breakfast. Daniela stayed home. Lately, she hardly ever went out. She would stay in her pajamas until noon, watching shows on TV, eating from my pans, without even heating up the food. I was in the yard watering my roses when she came out. "Linda, I need to talk to you." I turned around. Daniela was holding a folder. A blue folder I hadn't seen before. "Tell me," I replied, and my voice sounded firmer than I felt. She sat down in the iron chair my mother had given me years ago. She crossed her legs and opened the folder with calculated movements. "Look, I've been doing the math," she began, "and this situation isn't sustainable." "What situation?" "The household expenses, Linda. Your pension is not enough." I felt something tighten in my chest. "Daniela, my pension has always been enough for everything. I've lived here for over 20 years and I've never lacked anything." She smiled. That smile that already set my teeth on edge. "Sure, when you lived alone. But now there are 3 of us. The electricity consumption is up, the water too, food, gas, everything." She pulled some papers from the folder, receipts, numbers marked with a red pen. "Look, here's the electricity bill, $900. The water bill, $200, the gas, $150. Groceries for the month, about $1,100. And that's not counting incidentals, $2,200. She was saying the expenses were $200 a month. My pension was $1,800. "Daniela, those numbers can't be right. The electric bill has never been over $200. She pushed the papers toward me. "Well, it is now. Check them yourself." I took the bills with trembling hands, and then I saw it. The electric bill had the correct address, but the usage was absurd. It listed appliances I didn't own: a high-capacity front-loading washer, a dryer, 2 air conditioners. I didn't have a dryer, I didn't have air conditioners. "This isn't from this house," I said. "Yes, it is, Linda. We had them installed last month. Didn't you notice?" I froze. "You installed air conditioners without asking me. Michael and I decided it was too hot. It was necessary. And who paid for that?" Daniela closed the folder slowly. "We financed it. A loan that we now have to pay monthly. That's why we need you to contribute more." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Daniela, you can't make decisions like that in my house without consulting me." She stood up from the chair. Her expression changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. "Look, Linda, let's put our cards on the table. I know this house was given to you. I know you didn't pay a single dollar for it. Mr. Peterson left it to you out of pity because you were his employee. But that doesn't mean it's yours. It means you got lucky." Every word was a blow. "And now Michael and I are here," she continued. "We are family. We are your only family. Or do you have someone else?" Silence. "Exactly," she said. "You have no one. So you can keep fighting over your electric bills and your ugly curtains. Or you can accept that things have changed, that you're not alone anymore, that now you have to share." She turned and went into the house, leaving me standing there with the fake bills in my hands. That night, when Michael got home, I was waiting for him in the living room. "Son, we need to talk." He sighed as if I were a spoiled child. "What now, Mom?" "Daniela showed me some bills. She says the expenses have gone up a lot, that you installed air conditioners and a dryer without telling me." Michael loosened his tie and dropped onto the sofa. "Yeah, Mom, we needed them." "What's the problem?" "The problem is that I didn't authorize those expenses. The problem is that loan isn't mine. The problem is that this is my house." He looked at me with that new expression I hated, that look of annoyance. "Mom, please, let's not start this again. Daniela is right. It's time for you to accept that you don't live alone anymore, that we're a family, and families share." "But Michael..." "But nothing, Mom. I'm tired. I had a rough day at work. Can we save the drama for another day?" He got up and went to his room without eating dinner. I sat there on the sofa I had bought 10 years ago, in the living room I had painted with my own hands, in the house that was mine. And for the first time in my life, I felt like an intruder. The following days were worse. Daniela started treating me like I was the guest, the intruder. "Linda, could you wash this?" she'd ask, throwing her dirty clothes at me. "Linda, we're out of dish soap. Go buy some." "Linda, don't make so much noise in the morning. Michael needs to sleep." And I obeyed. Why? Why did I let it happen? Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my son forever. Afraid of being left completely alone. Afraid that if I fought back too hard, they would leave and I would never see Michael again. So I kept quiet. I bowed my head. I did what they asked. I became the maid in my own house. One afternoon, while I was cleaning the bathroom they used and never cleaned, I found a shoebox under the sink. I opened it. Inside were papers, lots of papers, credit applications, all in my name, credit cards, 3 of them, all in my name, and a document from a public notary with my signature. But I hadn't signed anything. I sat on the cold bathroom floor, my hands shaking. The signature was good, very good, but it wasn't mine. They had forged it. I heard footsteps in the hall. I quickly put everything back in the box and shoved it under the sink. I walked out of the bathroom as if nothing had happened. Daniela was in the hallway watching me. "What were you doing in there for so long, Linda?" "Cleaning," I said. "It was very dirty." She stared at me for a long second, an eternal second. Then she smiled. "Thanks, Linda. You're a sweetheart." That night I couldn't close my eyes, because now I knew everything. They didn't just want my pension, they wanted my house, and they were willing to steal it. As I tell this, I think about where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next few days were a silent nightmare. I walked through my own house like a thief, afraid to make noise, afraid to look too closely, afraid that Daniela would notice that I knew, because now I knew. I knew they had forged my signature. I knew they had opened credit lines in my name. I knew this was all a carefully designed plan to take away the only thing I had. But I needed more proof. I needed to understand how deep the deception went. On Tuesday morning, when Michael left for work and Daniela finally went out to the salon, I had the house to myself for 2 hours. 2 hours to search. I went straight to their room. My old guest room, which now smelled like that sweet, sticky perfume Daniela wore. The walls I had painted light yellow were now covered with photos of the 2 of them, as if this house was theirs, as if I was the one who didn't belong. I opened the closet carefully. Expensive clothes, too expensive for what Michael earned. Designer shoes, handbags that cost more than my pension for 3 months. Where was this money coming from? I checked the drawers. Makeup, jewelry, nothing important. until I got to the last drawer of the nightstand. There it was, another folder. This one was black. I took it out with trembling hands and opened it on the bed. Oh my God. Bank statements. 3 different accounts. All with my name. All with huge negative balances. One credit card with a debt of $8,000, another with $5,000, a third with $4,000. More than $17,000 in debt. In my name. I kept looking. There were more papers. A personal loan for $15,000. Approved. Deposited into an account that wasn't mine. Another loan for $10,000. Also approved. And at the bottom of the folder, the worst of all, a mortgage application for the house. My house. The application was in process. Application date 2 weeks ago. Amount requested $150,000. There was a handwritten note in Daniela's handwriting. When the mortgage comes through, we pay off everything and go to Florida. She can't do anything without the original papers. We'll make her think it's for remodeling, and we'll sign everything with Michael's cousin Frank at the notary's office. I felt the floor open up beneath me. Michael's cousin, Frank. The one who worked at a notary's office. The one my sister always said was a bit shady. They were going to use contacts to falsify documents, to mortgage my house, to take the money, to leave, and leave me with the debts, with the mortgage, with nothing. I sat on the bed because my legs wouldn't hold me. How long had they been planning this? Since when? Since before they knocked on my door that Sunday in October, I heard a car outside. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly put everything back in the folder. I put it in the drawer exactly as I found it. I closed the nightstand. I got out of the room. I reached the kitchen just as the front door opened. It was Daniela. She walked in carrying bags from an expensive department store. More clothes, more shoes, more things bought with money that wasn't hers. With my money, with my credit, with my name. Oh, Linda. Good you're here, she said, leaving the bags on the sofa. I need you to do me a favor. I looked at her without saying anything, trying to control my breathing, trying not to scream everything I had just discovered. I have to go to a notary's office tomorrow to sign some papers. It's a work thing for Michael. I need you to come with me as a witness. There it was, the moment they had been preparing for. They were going to take me to sign the mortgage, right in front of me, making me believe it was a work errand. What kind of papers? I asked, and my voice came out calmer than I expected. Oh, I don't know. Something about taxes. You know how those things are, just boring paperwork, but they need a family member to be present. A lie. It was all a lie. What time? I asked. At 11 in the morning, at the notary's office on Main Street, number 33. Michael's cousin's office. Okay, I said. I'll be there. Daniela smiled, that triumphant smile I knew so well. Thanks, Linda. I knew we could count on you. You're the best. She went to her room with her bags. I heard her laughing, talking on the phone. Yeah, girl, everything gets signed tomorrow. She doesn't suspect a thing. I told you it was easy. Just a stupid old woman who does whatever you ask. A stupid old woman. I was 51 years old, and I was not stupid. That night when Michael came home, he was in a good mood. A rare thing in recent weeks. Mom, did Daniela tell you that you have to go to the notary's office tomorrow? Yes, son. She told me. Perfect. It's important that you go okay. Don't miss it. He looked me in the eyes, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw something in his gaze. Guilt, doubt, remorse. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. I won't miss it, I told him. He nodded and went to eat dinner. I stayed in the living room looking out the window. The night was dark, starless, as if even the sky knew something terrible was about to happen. I went to my room. I opened the drawer, took out the rusty key. This time I didn't put it back. I put the chain around my neck. I felt it cold against my skin. Tomorrow they thought I would sign the papers, that I would hand over my house without a fight, that I would let them steal everything I had worked for 25 years. But I had a plan too. A plan I had been saving since the day I received the original deed. A plan I never thought I'd have to use against my own son. I opened my closet and took out an old shoebox. Inside, wrapped in plastic, were the original documents for the house. The deed in my name, signed, sealed, completely legal. And another document, a sworn statement that Mr. Peterson had me sign years ago. A statement where he testified that the house was payment for services rendered for 25 years. Not an inheritance, not a gift, a legal payment, with his signature, with witnesses, everything in order. And there was a letter written by Mr. Peterson 2 months before he died. Linda, if anyone ever tries to take this house from you, use this letter. In it, I explain that you were more than my employee. You were my friend, my family. And this house is yours by right, not by charity. Don't let anyone take away what you earned with your work and your dignity. Signed, Alfonso Peterson. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I read that letter for the 10th time. Mr. Peterson had known. Somehow he had known that one day I would need to protect myself, even from my own blood. I put the documents in my purse. Tomorrow I would take them with me, and when the time came to sign in that corrupt notary's office, I would pull out my own papers, and I would show my son and that woman that Linda was no stupid old woman, that mothers know how to defend themselves, even if it breaks their own hearts. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? Wednesday morning dawned gray. I hadn't slept. I sat on my bed all night with my purse on my lap, inside the documents that would prove the truth, inside my only defense. At 7 in the morning, I heard movement in the house. Daniela and Michael were already up. I heard them talking in low voices in the kitchen, nervous laughter, the sound of the coffee pot. I got up, showered, and put on my navy blue dress, the one I wore for important occasions. I combed my hair carefully. I put on the pearl earrings my mother left me. If I was going to confront my son, I would do it with dignity. I left my room at 8:30. Daniela was in the living room putting on makeup in front of a mirror. She was wearing a tight red dress and high heels, as if she were going to a party, not to steal a house. "Good morning, Linda," she said without looking at me. "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Perfect. Michael left for work early, but we'll see him there at the notary's office. We leave in half an hour." Half an hour. 30 minutes before they tried to take everything from me. I ate a small pastry and drank some coffee. Every bite was hard to swallow. My stomach was burning with nerves. At 10:20, Daniela called out, "Let's go, Linda! We can't be late!" We got into her car, a white Jetta that I knew they had bought with one of the fake loans in my name, another $30,000 charge at some finance company. During the drive, Daniela was singing, humming along to songs on the radio, happy, relaxed, as if she wasn't about to destroy my life. "Nervous, Linda?" she asked at a red light. "A little," I lied. "Don't worry, it's just signing some papers. 15 minutes and we're done." 15 minutes to lose everything. We arrived at the notary's office at 10:55, an old building on Main Street, stone facade, large windows. The sign said Notary Public Gnome 33, Frank Ortega, Michael's cousin. We went in. The receptionist showed us to a small waiting room. Dark wood paneled walls, framed university degrees, everything designed to inspire confidence to get people to sign without reading. Michael was already there, sitting on a leather sofa wearing a suit. He looked nervous. He looked guilty. "Hi, Mom," he said without standing up. "Hello, son." Daniela sat next to him. She took his hand, whispered something in his ear. He nodded. I sat across from them with my purse on my lap, my heart beating so hard I thought they could hear it. At 11 o'clock sharp, a man came out of one of the offices. Frank, Michael's cousin. I recognized him from photos, 40-something, mustache, fake smile. "Good morning, Rodriguez family." He greeted us with a professional voice. "Please come in." We entered his office, a large desk, 3 chairs in front of it, papers stacked perfectly. "Well," Frank began as he sat down, "as I've already explained to Michael and Daniela today, we are going to formalize the application for a home equity loan on the property located at 456 Morelos Street in the San Rafael neighborhood." My house. He was talking about my house. "Mrs. Linda Rodriguez." He continued looking at me. "Is the owner of the property according to the records we have here. Is that correct?" "Yes," I said. "Perfect. And your son Michael and daughter-in-law Daniela will be the beneficiaries of the loan which will be used for improvements to the property. Is everyone in agreement?" Daniela and Michael nodded immediately. I said nothing. Frank took out a thick folder. He began to explain the terms of the loan: $150,000, a 20-year term, an interest rate of 12%. Numbers I knew would never be used for improvements, numbers they would take with them to Florida. "I need all three of you to sign here," Frank said, pointing to lines at the bottom of several documents. "First, Mrs. Linda as the owner, then Michael and Daniela as the applicants." He pushed the papers toward me. He offered me a pen. Everyone was looking at me. "Do you have any questions, Mrs. Linda?" Frank asked with that corrupt notary's smile. I took the pen. I held it over the first document, and then I spoke. "Yes, I have a question." The silence became thick. "Tell me," Frank said, his smile faltering a bit, "did you review the original documentation for the property?" Frank blinked. "Yes, of course. We have a certified copy of the deed here." "A copy?" "Yes, ma'am. A certified copy is sufficient for this transaction." I opened my purse slowly. I took out the documents I had guarded all night. "That's funny," I said calmly, "because I have the original deed right here." I placed the document on the desk, the yellowish paper with the official seals. The signature of the notary who registered it 25 years ago. My full name, Linda Rodriguez, sole owner. Frank turned pale. "Mom, what are you doing?" Michael asked. "I'm doing what I should have done months ago, son. I'm defending what is mine." I took out the second document, Mr. Peterson's sworn statement. "This," I said, "is the statement of Mr. Alfonso Peterson, the man who employed me for 25 years, the man who bought this house and transferred it to me as payment for professional services rendered." Frank took the document with trembling hands. He began to read it. "It states clearly right here," I continued, "that the house was a legal transaction, not an inheritance, not a charity gift, a payment. Registered with a notary, with witnesses, all legal." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Michael stood up from his chair. "That house was a gift. Mr. Peterson left it to you because you were his employee." "No, Michael, I earned that house. With 25 years of work. With every day I spent cleaning floors, with every night I spent looking after a property that wasn't mine until it was. That house is mine by right, not by pity." Daniela also stood up. Her face had lost all trace of a smile. "Linda, you're exaggerating. We just want to help. We just want to make improvements." "Improvements," I interrupted her, and for the first time in months, my voice sounded loud, firm, angry. "Do you think I'm so stupid that I don't know what you're doing?" I took out the third set of documents, the bank statements I had found in their room. "This," I said, throwing them on the desk, "is the credit cards you opened in my name without my permission. $17,000 of debt that I didn't create, loans I didn't ask for, all with my forged signature." The silence was absolute. "Linda, I don't know what you're talking about," Daniela began. "Don't lie to me," I shouted. And it was the first time I had shouted in 6 months. "I found the folder in your room. I saw the note you wrote. When the mortgage comes through, we're going to Florida. I know everything." Daniela took a step back. Michael looked at me like I had gone crazy. Frank cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "Mrs. Linda, if what you're saying is true, this is a case of fraud. I cannot proceed with this transaction." "You're not proceeding," I said, "because there is no transaction, because this house is not getting a mortgage, because I am not signing anything." I turned to my son. "Michael, look at me." He looked up. There were tears in his eyes. "Is it true?" I asked him. "Were you really willing to rob me, to leave me on the street? Your own mother." "Mom, it wasn't like that. Daniela said you would be fine, that you could rent a small place, that you didn't need so much space." "And you believed her?" The tears started to roll down my cheeks. "You believed her, and not your own mother." Michael opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Daniela grabbed his arm. "Michael, let's go. Your mother is crazy. She's making all this up." He didn't move. "My son," I said, my voice breaking. "I raised you alone. I worked for 30 years to give you a roof over your head, to make sure you could study, to make sure you ate. I never asked for anything in return. I only asked you to love me, to respect me, Mom. And you decided to believe a woman you've known for a year, a woman who has treated me like trash since she arrived, who planned to steal everything from me." Michael started to cry. "I didn't want... She said it was for the best, that you didn't need the house, that you were too old to maintain it." Every word was a dagger. "I am 51 years old, Michael. I'm not dead. I'm not useless. And this house is mine." I wiped away my tears. I put my documents back in my purse. "I'm not going to press charges," I said, "because you are my son, and because even though you betrayed me, I am not like you." I walked to the door. "But I want you to know something, son. Starting today, you are no longer welcome in my house. You have 3 days to get your things and find another place." "Mom, you can't kick us out," Michael yelled. I turned around. I looked him in the eyes. "You told me that if I didn't like it, I could leave. Remember? Well, now I'm telling you the same thing. If you don't like it, you can leave." I walked out of that notary's office with my head held high. Outside, the sun had come out from behind the clouds, and I, for the first time in months, could breathe. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? I went home in a taxi. I didn't want to wait for Daniela. I didn't want to be near them for a second longer. During the drive, I stared out the window without seeing anything. The streets passed in a blur. People walked on the sidewalk as if it were a normal day, as if my world hadn't just shattered into a million pieces. When I got to the house, I locked the door. I sat on the living room sofa, and for the first time in 6 months, I cried. I cried for the son I had lost, for the rosy-cheeked boy who called me Mommy and hugged me tight when he was scared, for the young man who swore he'd always take care of me. Where had that boy gone? At what point did I lose him? I cried until I had no tears left. Then I got up, I washed my face, and I started doing what I had to do. I called the bank. I reported the fraudulent credit cards. I froze my account. I requested a new card that only I could use. I called a locksmith. I asked him to come that same afternoon to change all the locks on the house. I called my cousin Susan, the only family I had left on my mother's side. I told her everything. She cried with me on the phone. "Susan, I need you to come," I told her. "I need you to be here when they get back. I don't want to be alone." "I'm on my way, Linda. I'll be there in half an hour." At 3 in the afternoon, the locksmith arrived, an older man in blue overalls who worked quickly and quietly. He changed all 3 locks. He gave me 6 sets of new keys. "Keep these safe, ma'am," he said, "and if anyone tries to force the doors, call the police." I paid him and gave him a good tip. At 4, Susan arrived with her husband, David. They came in with bags of food. "You're not going through this alone," my cousin said, hugging me tight. "We're with you." We sat in the kitchen. I told them everything again more calmly. Every detail, every lie, every fake document. David shook his head. "That boy let himself be poisoned," he said. "That woman is evil. From the first time I saw her, I knew she was bad news." "So what are you going to do now?" Susan asked. I gave them 3 days to leave. "But honestly, cousin, I'd rather they leave today. I don't want to see them. I can't look at them without—" My voice broke. Susan took my hand. "You're going to get through this, Linda. You're strong. You've always been." At 6 in the evening, we heard a car outside, the white Jetta. Susan and David stood up immediately, standing beside me like guards, like protectors. I heard the sound of the key in the lock trying to get in. It wouldn't turn, pounding on the door. "Mom, open the door." It was Michael's voice, desperate, furious. I took a deep breath. I walked to the door, but I didn't open it. "I already changed the locks," I said from inside. "I told you you have 3 days to find another place." "Mom, don't be ridiculous. We have to get in. Our things are in there." You can come for your things tomorrow, at 10 in the morning. I will pack everything and leave it on the porch, but you are not coming into this house." "This is crazy!" Daniela shouted. "You can't just throw us out like this. I'm calling the police." "Call them," I said, my voice calm. "And I'll show them the forged documents, the credit cards you opened with my fake signature, the fraudulent loans. Let's see who ends up getting arrested." Silence on the other side. "Mom, please." Michael's voice sounded broken. "Let's talk. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix, Michael. You made your decision when you decided to rob me, when you decided to believe her instead of your own mother." "I didn't want to. She convinced me. She said it was best for everyone." "And you believed her." More silence. "That's the difference between you and me, son. I would never have done something like that, not even if someone convinced me it was for the best. Because I know what's right. And you chose the easy way." "Mom." "Tomorrow at 10, your things will be outside. And after that, Michael, I don't want to see you again." Those last words cost me everything. Every letter was a piece of my heart being ripped out. "You can't say that," Michael cried. "I'm your son. You were my son," I said, and the tears rolled down my cheeks. The son I raised would not have betrayed me like this. I heard sobbing on the other side of the door. "Let's go, Michael," Daniela said, her voice hard. "Your mother will regret this." "I won't regret it," I said. "The only thing I regret is opening my door that Sunday. Regret trusting you." Footsteps walking away, the car starting, the sound fading into the distance. I slumped against the door. Susan hugged me while I cried. "It's over, cousin. It's over." But it wasn't over. It was just beginning. That night, Susan and David stayed with me. We ate dinner together, food I could barely swallow, conversation that tried to distract me from the pain. But nothing worked, because I had just lost my son. I had actually lost him months ago, from the day Daniela walked into his life. But now it was official. Michael was no longer my son. I was no longer his mother. At 11, my cousin and her husband left. They made me promise to call if I needed anything, that I wouldn't be alone, that they would be back early tomorrow to help me pack Michael's things. I was alone in the house, my house. I walked through the empty rooms, the living room that smelled like my usual perfume, the kitchen with the ghost aroma of cinnamon coffee, my room with the bed where I had slept thousands of nights, and the guest room, the one that had been theirs. I went in. I turned on the light. Clothes thrown on the floor, shoes scattered, bottles of perfume on the dresser, photos of them on the walls. All of it would be gone tomorrow. I opened the closet. There was the black folder, the fraud documents, the proof of their betrayal. I took them, and instead of hiding them, I put them in a box along with all their belongings. Let them take it. Let them know that I knew. Let them understand that there was no way to hide what they had done. I worked all night, taking out clothes, folding packing, putting everything into cardboard boxes I had stored in the shed. Expensive shoes, designer clothes, handbags, fake Louis Vuitton, all bought with stolen money, with fraudulent credit, with my name stained at banks. At 6 in the morning, I was finished. 10 boxes by the front door, clothes on hangers, shoes in bags. Everything they had brought into my house, everything they would be taking back out. I sat on the front step to wait. The sun was starting to rise. The birds were singing. The world kept spinning as if nothing had happened. At 10 o'clock sharp, the white Jetta arrived. Michael got out alone. Daniela stayed in the car windows, up sunglasses on. My son looked terrible. Puffy eyes, wrinkled clothes, 2 days' worth of stubble. "Mom," he said when he saw me. I didn't answer. I just pointed at the boxes. "It's all there." And he looked at the boxes, then at me. "Are you really going to do this?" "You did it first, Michael. I'm just protecting myself." "Mom, please, give me a chance. We can talk. I can explain." "Explain what?" "How you forged my signature. How you planned to leave me in debt and homeless. How you treated me like trash for months. I don't—" "You did. And the worst part is you knew it. You knew it the whole time. And you did nothing to stop her. You chose her over me. Your wife of 1 year over your mother of a lifetime." Michael's shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry, Mom." I'm sorry too, son. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. I'm sorry I failed you somehow. I'm sorry you grew up believing it's okay to betray someone who loves you. You didn't fail me. His voice broke. Then I don't understand what happened. Where is the boy who promised to always take care of me? The one who said he'd buy me a house with a garden? Tears rolled down his face. It's still me, Mom. I shook my head. No, Michael, that boy is dead, and you killed him. I stood up. I went inside the house. I closed the door. I heard him crying on the other side. I heard him load the boxes one by one. I heard him put everything in the car. I heard him start the engine and drive away. And when the silence returned, I sat on the living room floor and cried like I had never cried in my life. Because I had won my house, but I had lost my son. The days that followed were the quietest of my life. The house was empty, but not like before. Before the silence was peace. Now it was absence. Susan came by every day. She brought me food that I barely touched. She kept me company in the long afternoons. She let me cry without saying anything. Time heals Linda, she would say. You'll see. But I wasn't sure I wanted to heal, because healing meant forgetting. And I didn't want to forget what they had done, not out of spite, but to make sure I would never be so foolish again. A week after Michael left, I went to the bank to fix the mess they had left. The bank representative, a young woman with glasses, reviewed my file with a concerned look. Mrs. Rodriguez, you have 3 active credit cards with very high balances and 2 personal loans that are past due. I didn't apply for any of those, I explained. It was fraud. I have proof. I showed her the documents, the forged signatures, everything. She frowned. This is serious. I'm going to file a fraud report. But you need to know this process can take months, and in the meantime, the debts continue to accrue interest. And what can I do? You can file a formal lawsuit. With this evidence, you have a strong case, but you'll need a lawyer. I left the bank with a heavy weight on my chest. Sue, my own son, send him to jail. I walked through the park. I sat on a bench under a jacaranda tree. The purple flowers fell like soft rain. And then I understood. I wasn't going to sue him. I wasn't going to seek revenge. I wasn't going to destroy his life like he tried to destroy mine, because I was not like them. But I wasn't going to rescue him either. For years I had been Michael's safety net. When he failed a semester in college, I paid the tuition again. When he lost his first job, I lent him money for his expenses. When he crashed the car, I covered the insurance deductible. Always me, always saving him. But that was over. If Michael was going to learn, he would have to do it alone. He would have to face the consequences of his decisions. He would have to carry the debts that he and Daniela had created. I would only clear my own name. I went back to the bank the next day with a lawyer Susan recommended, a serious man in his 60s who reviewed everything carefully. Mrs. Linda, you have 2 options, he explained. First, a criminal lawsuit for fraud. Second, a civil suit to separate your liability from the debts. What's the difference? The criminal suit seeks punishment. The civil suit seeks to protect you. With the criminal suit, your son could go to prison. With the civil suit, the debts are transferred to his name and his wife's, but there are no criminal charges. I didn't have to think twice. The civil suit? I just want my name cleared. Nothing more. The lawyer nodded. You are a very noble woman. I'm not noble, I said. I'm just tired of fighting. The paperwork began that same week. In the meantime, my life slowly returned to something resembling normal. I started drinking my cinnamon coffee in the mornings again. I started watering my roses again. I started listening to music in the kitchen while I cooked. The house started to smell like cinnamon again. 2 weeks after Michael left, I got a call. It was him. My heart skipped a beat when I saw his name on the screen. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the answer button. Finally, I answered. Hello. Mom. His voice was broken, desperate. I need your help. I closed my eyes. What happened, Michael? Daniela, she left. She left me. She took all the money we had. I'm alone. I have nowhere to live. I got kicked out of the apartment we rented because we didn't pay. Mom, please. I need to come home. Every word hurt, But something inside me, something new, something that had never been there before, held firm. No, Michael. What? You can't come back. This house isn't your house anymore. Mom, please. I have no one else. Daniela left me with the debts. I'm getting collection calls all day. I'm going to lose my job. Those are the consequences of your decision, son. How can you be so cruel? I'm your son. My voice broke, but I didn't give in. And I am your mother. The mother you tried to rob. The mother you treated like trash. Remember, I already apologized. What more do you want me to do? I want you to grow up, Michael. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to learn to be a real man. Mom, for 32 years I saved you from everything. I protected you from everything, and look at you. You turned into someone who steals from his own mother, someone who lets himself be manipulated, someone with no backbone. The words came out harsh but necessary. So no, Michael, I'm not saving you this time. You're going to have to save yourself. And if I can't, then you're going to learn, just like I learned when your father left me alone with a 5-year-old boy. No one saved me. I saved myself. Silence on the line. That's easy for you to say, he mumbled. Easy. I let out a bitter laugh. Michael, I sold tortillas to feed you. I worked 12 hours a day to pay for your school. I stayed up all night sewing clothes to buy your school supplies. And I never, ever asked you to thank me. I only asked you to be a good man, and you failed. Mom, please. Get help, son. Find your friends. Call your cousin Susan. Find a job. Find a way. But don't call me. You're abandoning me. Tears were rolling down my cheeks. No, Michael. You abandoned me first. I'm just letting you face what you created. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. I hung up. I sat in the kitchen with the phone in my hand, shaking. Susan arrived half an hour later. She found me crying. What happened, cousin? I told her about the call, what he had said, how much it hurt. She hugged me tight. You did the right thing, Linda. For the first time in your life, you set a boundary, and that's not being cruel. That's being wise. What if something happens to him? What if he ends up on the street? What if... It's not your responsibility, not anymore. He's 32. It's time for him to learn. That night, I wrote a letter I never sent. Michael, I hope one day you understand why I did what I did. It wasn't to punish you. It was to save you, because a son who depends on his mother at 32 isn't a son. He's a child in a man's body. And I did you no favors by protecting you so much. I made you weak. I made you vulnerable. I made you unable to face life. So now I'm letting you go. I'm letting you fall so you can learn to get up, because I won't be around forever. And when I'm gone, I need to know that you'll be okay, that you'll be able to take care of yourself. Even if you hate me now, I hope one day you'll understand. With all my love, Mom. I put the letter in my drawer, next to the rusty key I no longer needed to use, because the real key was never made of metal. It was the courage to say no, the courage to set boundaries, the courage to let go. 3 months passed, 3 months in which I slowly rebuilt my life, my real life. I painted the walls of the house, the pale yellow I had always liked but that Daniela said was for old ladies. I hung my photographs up again. The flower curtains went back on the windows. The house was mine again, completely mine. I got a part-time job at a bookstore downtown. I didn't need it for the money. My pension was perfectly fine now that I lived alone, but I needed it for my soul, to get out, to talk to people, to remember there was a world beyond my pain. Susan still came by on Wednesdays. We'd drink coffee and talk about everything, except Michael. Until one Wednesday in July, she arrived with a strange expression. "Cousin, I need to tell you something." My heart tightened. "What happened? Is it Michael?" She nodded. "I saw him yesterday, at the market." I sat down slowly in my chair. "How is he?" Susan hesitated. "He's not good, Linda. He looks bad. Very bad." "How bad?" "Skinny, gaunt, wearing old clothes. He was buying the cheapest things: beans, rice, nothing else. I felt something squeeze my chest. Did he talk to you? Yes. He asked about you. I told him you were doing well. He just broke down and cried, right there in the middle of the market. Tears started to sting my eyes. Did he say anything else? He told me Daniela left him with all the debts, that she ran off with another man, one with real money, that she just used him to try and steal your house, that when she saw the plan failed, she abandoned him. I closed my eyes. And where is he living? In a rented room, a tiny one in the industrial district. He told me he lost his job because the collection calls were coming to the office all day. He got a job in a warehouse, loading boxes, 12 hours a day. My son, my Michael, loading boxes. Did he ask you for money? I asked. No, I offered, but he refused. He said he had to learn to manage on his own, that his mom was right. The tears were flowing freely now. Cousin, why are you crying? Isn't this what you wanted? For him to learn? Yes, I whispered. But I didn't think it would hurt so much to watch him fall. Susan took my hand. Do you want me to go find him? Do you want to talk to him? I shook my head. Not yet. He's not ready yet, and neither am I. But the news kept coming, through my cousin, through acquaintances, through the neighborhood that talks and gossips about everything. Michael had lost weight, 30 pounds, they said. His face looked hollow. He walked with his shoulders slumped. He was no longer the arrogant man who had kicked me out of my own house. He was someone broken. The debts were chasing him. The banks had started legal proceedings. My lawyer had managed to get my name cleared. But now everything was falling on Michael. Over $30,000 in cards and loans. Daniela had disappeared. Rumor was she was in Miami with some businessman living the life she had wanted to build with my money with my house. But she had failed. And now she was with someone else doing the same thing. Some people are born with a hole that can never be filled. Daniela was one of them. In September, 6 months after they left, I got another call from Michael. This time I answered on the first ring. Hello. Mom. His voice was different, softer, more humble. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know I have no right, but I needed to tell you something. Tell me. You were right. About everything. I was a fool, a coward, a bad son. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Daniela left me on the street. She even took the things I'd bought before I met her. My clothes, my books, everything. She left me with the debts and a letter saying I was too weak to be a real man. A bitter laugh escaped his throat. You know what the saddest part is, Mom. You were right. I am weak. I always was. And you told me. But I didn't want to listen. Michael. No. Let me finish. Please. He took a deep breath. These months have been the worst of my life. I have no money. I can barely pay for my room. I eat once a day. I work 12 hours loading boxes in a warehouse that smells like damp. I come home so tired I fall asleep in my clothes. Every word was a knife in my heart. The collectors call me every day. They threaten me with lawsuits, with wage garnishment, with jail, and I have no way to pay. I have nothing. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice trembling. Because I want you to know that I get it. I understand what you tried to teach me, that life doesn't forgive, that decisions have consequences, that you can't betray the person who loves you and expect everything to be okay. Silence. I'm not asking you to help me, Mom. I'm not asking for money or to come back. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. And that I hope one day you can forgive me. The tears were falling onto my lap. Michael, you don't have to say anything. Just thanks for answering. Thanks for listening to me. And he hung up before I could reply. I sat there with the phone in my hand, crying. I didn't sleep that night. All night I thought about my son, about his broken voice, his ruined life. Was this what I wanted, to see him suffer so much? No. But it also wasn't my responsibility to save him. Life, that cruel but fair teacher, was billing him for everything he did to us, in its own way, in its own time. Daniela had used him and thrown him away just as he had thrown me away. The debts haunted him just as he had haunted me for my money. Loneliness consumed him just as it consumed me when he kicked me out of my house. Life always collects its debts, sometimes with interest. One afternoon in October, 7 months after everything, I was in the garden watering my roses when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it. It was Michael, but not the arrogant Michael from before, not the man in the suit who had yelled at me. This was a skinny man with an unkempt beard, worn-out clothes. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. His hands were dirty from work. "Mom," he said, and his voice broke immediately. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I just came to bring you this." He held out an envelope. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were $50 in crumpled bills. "It's all I could save this month," he said. "I know I owe you so much more. I know I'll never be able to repay you for what we did, but I want to try, even if it takes me the rest of my life." I looked him in the eyes, and for the first time in months, I saw my real son. Not the manipulated man, not the thief, not the traitor. I saw the boy who had once promised to take care of me, the boy who was finally trying to grow up. "I don't want your money, Michael." "But Mom," "Keep it. Use it to eat, to pay for your room, to get out of debt." He shook his head, tears rolling down his dirty face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No," I said firmly. "You don't. Not yet. But one day, maybe, when you are the man you were always supposed to be, we'll talk on that day." He nodded. He wiped his tears on his sleeve. "I love you, Mom. I always loved you, even though I was an idiot." "I love you too, son. That's why I let you fall, so you could learn to fly." I closed the door softly. I heard him cry on the other side for a long minute, then his footsteps walking away. I sat on the living room sofa with the $50 in my hand, and I smiled, because life had given Michael exactly what he deserved: pain, loneliness, consequences, but also something more important, a chance for redemption, to be better, to grow. And no one had given him that chance. He had earned it, with suffering, with humility, with work. Justice had arrived, not through my revenge, but through the natural balance of life. 2 years have passed since that afternoon at the notary's office. 2 years since I got my house back, my dignity, my life. Today, I am 53 years old. My hair is grayer, a few more wrinkles on my forehead, but I also have something I didn't have before. Peace, true peace, the kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you deserve. I still live in my house in the San Rafael neighborhood. Now the walls are yellow, that soft yellow I always liked, and the windows have flower curtains. In the garden, my roses bloom more beautifully than ever, as if they know there is finally tranquility in this place. I work at the bookstore downtown 3 times a week, not because I need to, but because I like it. I like recommending books. I like talking with the customers. I like feeling useful. Susan still visits me on Wednesdays. We drink cinnamon coffee and talk about everything, about her family, about the news, about life. And sometimes we talk about Michael. Because yes, Michael is still in my life, but in a different way. After that afternoon, he brought me the $50 he kept coming. Once a month, always on time, always with an envelope of money that I never accept, but that he insists on bringing. "It's for my dignity, Mom," he says, "not for yours." And I understand. At first, our conversations were short, awkward. He would tell me about his job at the warehouse. I would tell him about the bookstore. Nothing deep, nothing painful. But little by little, the wounds began to heal. 6 months ago, Michael got a better job at a logistics company. Nothing extraordinary, but better than loading boxes. He rented a bigger apartment. He started paying off his debts little by little. He tells me this with pride, and I listen with a full heart. Because my son is growing up. He's finally growing up. 3 months ago, he asked if he could come for dinner one Sunday. "Only if you want, Mom. I don't feel like I have the right to ask, but I miss your enchiladas." I smiled. "Come next Sunday." At 2. He arrived on time, with flowers, yellow roses. "I know they're your favorite," he said shyly. We ate together at the dining room table, the same table where Daniela had once counted my pension money, the same table where everything broke, but now it was different. Michael ate slowly, savoring, thankful for every bite. "Mom," he said when we finished, "there's something I need to tell you." My heart tightened. "Tell me, son." "I've been going to therapy for 4 months now." I looked at him surprised. "Therapy?" He nodded. "I needed to understand how I got to the point of doing what I did, how I could betray you like that, and my therapist helped me see a lot of things." He wiped his eyes with his napkin. "She helped me see that I was always weak, that I always looked for someone else to tell me what to do. First you, then Daniela. I never learned to be myself, to make my own decisions, to be responsible." "Michael." "And she helped me understand something even more important, that you didn't fail me. I failed you, by not growing up, by not maturing, by letting myself be manipulated so easily." Tears were rolling down his face. "I also understood that Daniela wasn't just evil. She was broken, like me, looking to fill a void with material things, with lies, with betrayal. But the difference is she's never going to change, and I can." I got up from my chair and hugged him. He sobbed on my shoulder like he did when he was a child. "Forgive me, Mom. Please, forgive me." "I already forgave you, son, a long time ago. Really, really. Because I see that you're trying, that you're growing, and that's the only thing I ever wanted for you." Since that day, Michael comes for dinner every Sunday. He doesn't live with me. He doesn't ask me for money. He doesn't expect me to rescue him. He just comes to talk, to be together, to rebuild what was broken. And I receive him with love. But also with boundaries, because I learned something important in these 2 years. Loving doesn't mean enabling. Loving also means knowing when to say no, when to let the other person face their consequences, when to let go. A week ago, Michael told me he finished paying off the last debt. "I don't owe anyone anything, Mom. Well, except you. I owe you everything." "You don't owe me anything, son." "Yes, I do. I owe you an apology that will never be enough. I owe you for the years of peace I stole from you. I owe you the respect I didn't give you." "Then pay me back by being a good man, by being honest, by being strong. That's the only debt I want you to pay." He smiled, a sad but hopeful smile. "I'll try, Mom. Every day I'll try." Today, as I write this in my journal, a habit I picked up after everything that happened, I look out the window and see my yellow roses swaying in the wind, and I think about everything I went through. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, the tears. But I also think about what I gained. I gained my house. I gained my dignity. I gained my peace, and above all, I gained something I never had before, the certainty that I can be alone without being empty, that I don't need anyone else to be whole, that my worth doesn't depend on how much they love me, but on how much I love myself. If I could talk to the Linda from 2 years ago, that scared woman who let them walk all over her in her own home, I would tell her this: don't be afraid to defend yourself, don't be afraid to set boundaries, don't be afraid to be alone. Because loneliness with dignity is better than company with humiliation. I would tell her that it's okay to love your son, but it's also okay not to let him destroy you. That it's okay to be a mother, but it's also okay to be a woman, a person, the owner of your own life. And I would tell her that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. That you can forgive and still keep your distance. That you can love and still protect yourself. Because love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. Today, at 53 years old, I know who I am. I am Linda Rodriguez, a woman who worked 30 years to own her own roof, a mother who loved so much she almost lost herself, a survivor who learned to fight back when it hurt the most. And if my story can help just one woman to open her eyes to set boundaries to value herself, then everything I suffered will have been worth it. Because sometimes mothers also need to learn to let go, to let their children fall so they can learn to get up. And even though it hurts like 1,000 knives in your heart, it's the only way they can truly grow up. Life taught me that justice doesn't always come quickly, but it comes with time, with patience, with that perfect balance that only the universe knows how to deliver. Daniela is still out there, I suppose, looking for her next victim, living her empty life of material things and a hollow heart. And Michael is here, fighting, growing, becoming the man he was always supposed to be. Will we ever be like we were before? Never, because before I was blind and he was a child. Now I see clearly and he is a man. And that is a much more honest, much more real relationship. I close my journal and put it away in the same drawer where I once kept that rusty key. The key that represented my last defense. The key to a chest I never had to open, because the real weapon was always my voice, my dignity, my courage to say no. I look at the clock. It's 2 p.m. Michael will be here soon for Sunday dinner. I get up and go to the kitchen to make the enchiladas he likes so much. And as I cook, I smile. Because my house smells like cinnamon again. Because my walls are yellow again. Because my heart beats calmly again. And because I learned the most important lesson life can teach you: can't save anyone who doesn't want to be saved. But you can save yourself. And that, in the end, is the only thing that really matters. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change someone's whole day. God bless you, and until next time.